Hello, and thank you for watching another Accelerate with Nerdio video. In this video, we're going to be talking about configuring backup retention. We'll go ahead and get right into the agenda. So we'll be talking about the prerequisites as well as the Nerdio defaults for backup retention, and then we'll jump right into a demonstration of changing the actual retention periods. As part of the prerequisites for configuring backup retention, we do need to have backup enabled via the Nerdio Azure portal, access to the Azure portal itself, and then a BDR plan from the policies and procedures for your customer. Once backups have been enabled via the Nerdio Azure portal, you're also able to observe what we have as the default retention period. So by default, Nerdio will retain any nightly backup for a period of 30 days. As you begin to design, quote, and build these environments, it may be necessary from time to time to actually change from the defaults. So if you need something beyond 30 days, you would be using the Azure portal to expand those retention periods. And so now let's jump over to the Azure portal. All right, so I've already got the Azure portal launched here, and I'm in the resource group of the account that I created. In our case, it's the Nerdio University demonstration account. And then just as a matter of preference, one of the things that I do when I first get into the portal, especially if I'm looking at resources, is I tend to order by type just because I know what I'm looking for. In this particular case, because we're talking about retention, I want to get to that recovery services vault. So we'll go ahead and order by that, pull up my vault here. And just like any other resource, it's going to open up its blade, where we can look at activity logs, so on and so forth, specific to that resource within that resource group. And as we start to look at retention, the first thing we want to look at is our backup policies. So when Nerdio orchestrates these environments and initially spins up the vault, we create a default policy called the backup policy followed by the account ID. So in this particular case, Nerdio University is 5427. And so we'll look at this policy as the associated items with this particular policy are all the VMs that we have within this given environment. Now, just for demonstration purposes, not everything that we have within this particular resource group always gets backed up. Sometimes we, during a demonstration, will remove a particular item, but in this particular case, we at least have 4 right now that we're backing up: a pool template, the actual golden image, and then DC01 and FS01. So those are the items that are associated with this particular policy. So we like that. And in our case, we're going to come in here and we want to modify that retention period. So in terms of all the settings that you're going to see when you first get in here, you'll see the initial defaults that every one of these accounts is going to have when you first go into it. So you can see here that we have 30 days of retention, which is a Nerdio default, and that these are all being done daily in the off hours in the evening or early morning. And the one thing that you probably do notice here is that this is a 2 days worth of recovery snapshots for this particular account. Now, this is a number that you can adjust. Typically, 2 snapshots we found to be a good default. A snapshot is going to be very different to recover from than, let's say, something that was written to the actual vault, which is, that LRS storage or GRS storage that you provision when you initially set up your backup and turned it on within Nerdio. You can extend this out. In some cases, we've seen partners where they're like, I want to have some weekend overlap, and so they might extend it out to 3 or 4 days. But typically having 2 days worth of snapshots, which are quick restores, is going to be good. And then the 30-day retention, obviously you can make this number to how many ever days that you want it to be. So if there's compliance involved and you're not going to do, weeklies, monthlies, or yearlies, you may want to make this 120 days or, whatever their policies and procedures are written for their particular business. And in some cases, you may actually require something more. So you may say, well, the 30 days is good, but I also want to turn on my weekly, monthly, and yearly backups for compliance reasons. Let's say you're in healthcare, where some of that's going to, you're either going to be required to hold on to specific records for anywhere from 7 to 10 years. And in those cases, once you've enabled those, you do have the option to make those modifications. Typically you're going to see a week base, which is, Sunday to Saturday kind of stuff. There is a day based where, you can start pulling from the calendar in terms of dates. I would say majority of the time we're going to say, first Sunday of every month, blah, blah, blah. So you're most likely going to be weekly based. So that is backup retention and where you change those values. Once you've made those modifications, you would come up here, hit save to commit that, and then you'll see those show up in the activity logs as it runs through those particular retention days. Thanks again for joining another MSP Accelerate video, and we'll hope to see you again soon.